You're listening to Real Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out realradio.com.
This is the best business in the world. Like, we talk about some of the bad things that happen or whatever.
There's a reason we're still doing it,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. We're still here. We're still doing it because it's amazing. So listen to our stories, laugh a little, learn from them maybe, right? Don't make the same mistakes. But this is an amazing business. And if you're thinking about getting into it, you need to. You need to make that jump and do it.
Welcome to Real Radio, episode 256 with David Pickron. The crowd goes wild. Okay, so David, we were in New Orleans together just last week at the National Radio Conference, and one of the keynote speakers did this program to be able to get to know people better and open up conversation. So before I tell you what it is, because I don't think you were in the room, I have used this probably on 15 to 20 people since then, including the person I sat next to on the airplane on the way back.
Okay. They probably
I'm glad you're amusing yourself. Yeah. We have no idea what you're talking about.
They probably had their headphones in, like, leave me alone, right?
Exactly. Like, I got to ask you a question.
Became one of my best friends, Instagram followers now, and everything.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so here it is. You ready?
I'm not sure I am, but shoot it.
Jory, get ready to radio edit this.
You have 60 seconds. I got the timer on the wall.
Okay.
Tell me your life story in 60 seconds.
Grew up with no supervision, was able to do whatever I want. Parents got divorced, went on their own ways, and learned a lot of life lessons. Obtained a fear of failure, knowing that I didn't have a safety net. And from there, man, I just went to work and just busted my ass and just was never the smartest, but I would just outwork you. So there it is. That's in 30 seconds, bro.
Yeah, you did that about 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's it. So that's to get to know me in a nutshell. Just fear of failure, man.
Yeah.
And it's been a great benefit to me, but it's kind of sucked a little bit too because there's a lot of sleepless nights and, so.
All right, let me take a stab at filling in some of the gaps here on your life story because there's a little more than 30 seconds here, I hope. Okay. It's going to be the shortest podcast in history. But okay, so licensed private investigator, longtime landlord, yes. CEO of Rent Perfect, founded AAA Landlord Services and Crim Shield. Is it Crim Shield?
Crim Shield.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hosts the Rent Perfect podcast, where he teaches private investigator level tenant screening and fair landlording, but also practical investing.
Exactly.
Is that a good summary?
100%.
Okay. Now, here's my first question for you. Are you packing heat right now?
Not right now, but I usually do.
Okay. All right, cool. Now, my follow-up to that is, did you struggle as much with getting a private investigator license as Ted did getting his real estate license?
You got some stories there, Ted? No, fairly easy for me to kind of just rolled right into it. Got it in the early 90s. And
wow, that long ago,
huh? It ever since, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so what was the plan? Did you ever have aspirations to be like maybe a cop or be in law enforcement or anything like that? Or was this
because you kind of look like a cop?
Hey,
yeah.
I gotta get a mustache right now, right?
Yeah, Sergeant Pickron.
Yeah, there you go. No, I come from a family of police officers, but never really wanted to do that. I actually found my footing in real estate by serving evictions when I was a senior in college. And I lived 2 hours north of Phoenix, and I was taking so many credit hours I couldn't have a full-time job. So I'd drive down on the weekends on Saturdays and Sundays, and I would serve papers, deliver eviction notices for an uncle of mine just to get some money to get through school.
Oh, okay. So your uncle had some rentals, and you're like, here's a starving.
He had an eviction company.
Oh.
But honestly, I mean, he's dead now, and I love him to death, but he ran it half-assed, man. So I was coming out of business school. I'm like, hey, listen, a lot of disappointment from my counselors at that point in school where they're like, hey, we're having job fairs. Intel's going to be there, Motorola. I'm like, no, I got a job. And they're like, what are you going to go do? And I'm going to go serve evictions in Phoenix. And they looked at me like, what the, And so I wish I could go back and meet those professors now to say, hey, come here, let's look at what the road.
Let's see the trajectory we each took.
Because I looked at the road to entrepreneurism, not necessarily that'd be serving evictions my whole life. And so when I started serving evictions, I was around the owners, right? The landlords, the people, and it kind of got me surrounded with them. And then from there, I just saw opportunity and then took off from there. So the PI license came around early on is because I had the largest eviction database in Arizona. Now, this is pre-internet, right?
Okay.
Pre-court access to stuff. So I got people to pay me to run through my eviction database and give them a credit bureau. In order to do that back then, you had to have a PI license.
Interesting.
And so I was tenant screening, if you want to call that, or backgrounds before it even got popular.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So I was holding data that people wanted. I would go evict a guy and I would tell the landlord, I just evicted this guy 2 months ago. You just moved him in last month and now we're evicting him again. And they would say, well, how can I prevent that from happening? And
jeez, dude, what a great sales pitch that is.
Yeah. So I worked right into that and started the screening company.
Yeah.
Right there. So.
Wow. Okay. So to timestamp this, how old were you when you were doing this? You said in college you were serving evictions, and then did you go right? How long did you do that before you started your own business?
I started it right out of college.
Oh, no kidding.
I went to my dad and I said, hey, I'm going to live with you for 6 months and I'm going to mooch off of you. I'll just be there for 6 months, but I'm going to fire this up and get this going. And he actually funded me. You know, it's funny. I look back on the day and I'm like, I thought I knew everything back then. I knew nothing, but I knew enough just to keep going and doing it. So
your kids are probably the same way with you, right?
Yeah. So 22, 23, started that, got married at 25.
Now, okay. So every state seems like it's a little bit different with their, like the whole eviction process can kind of vary widely. I mean, even Iowa, Nebraska, we share a border and it's quite a bit different. And it's funny that you're here because like this had nothing really to do with that, but I host a coffee meetup called Caffeine and Cap Rates. Yesterday, we did almost an hour and a half of a deep dive into the whole eviction and service process and all that. God, I wish you were there. I would have looked much smarter. And man, I tell you what, like everybody stayed there for like 2.5 hours because everybody had questions and we talked through a lot of stuff. It is an endlessly fascinating subject and one that unfortunately any landlord of any size will deal with at some point. It's a
painful process.
Yeah.
It really is.
So when you were serving these evictions, and I'm only operating off of my knowledge of the 2 states where I've done these before, but did you have to go up and just slap a notice on their door? Did you actually have to knock and be like, hey, get your shit and get out of here? Or like, what did that look like? What was the process?
Right. So when we first started, we had to get people in person.
Okay.
If we wanted a money judgment.
If
we slapped it on the door and we certified mailed it, then you would get your possession of the property, but you wouldn't get your money.
Okay.
But that soon changed probably in Arizona in the late 90s where they said, hey, listen, we're not getting a lot of people because they know the game and they just don't open up the door.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and landlords want their money judgments. And so they changed the rules in Arizona. Now we get money judgment and we just have to post it on the door and mail it certified. Ultimately, that's what we do, but we always try to get them in person because we want to notify them what's going on because we want them to turn around and pay the landlord and make the landlord whole and continue the rental process. And when you do it in person, there's a big difference than when they just come home and find the notice on the door.
Or they throw it away.
Or the kids grab it off the door. But when there's an officer of the court at your door saying, hey, you have days. You have days before you're out of here. It really does. That personal contact changes everything.
Now, I would assume that people probably weren't the most friendly to you when you knocked on their door and let them know that they're about to be homeless.
You know, believe it or not, people in that particular paper, we serve other stuff that gets a little bit harder for us, right? But believe it or not, it's hard to say, I'm mad at you for being here when I didn't pay my rent. So you'd be surprised how a lot of people are like, hey, we're so sorry, wasting your time, getting paid on Friday. Interesting enough, they're going to lose their home, which is like the biggest thing over your head. And actually people over the years have been fairly, nice about it. Now, I've had situations where I've walked away from the door and a gunshot went off and they've killed themselves because of the notice they just got.
Shut
up. No, I mean, so there are some tragedies that happen, but nothing never got in a fight, never chased
Oh my
me down.
God.
How do you handle that?
Wow.
But let me tell you what people get mad about, and it is photo radar. Do you guys have photo radar here?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, you're talking.
Yeah. The like
cameras.
You run a red light.
The cameras.
Yeah.
And now go give somebody a ticket, and oh my gosh,
really?
You would think, geez. I mean, over order protections, over divorces.
Yeah.
People are crazy about photo radar.
Whoa. Yeah.
They just feel like it's just, you violated me, right? But you're not real nice to a police officer when he pulls you over either. You're
sure.
like, why'd you pull me over? And you're kind of, so we
give me your supervisor.
But when we get back to evictions, because that's what we're really talking about here, strangely enough, most people are kind of humble about it and just like, we're just trying to get by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
it has to be a little hard, right? I mean, or I guess you just get used to it after a while.
You have
Like,
to.
yeah.
Right. You're the court mailman.
Yep.
And you're delivering some bad news. And when I first started, there were some kids involved, and it tugs at your strings, but this job needs to get done. And soon you just kind of become numb to it. And you say, hey, I can't solve everybody's problems in the world. They've actually got to take on some of that responsibility themselves. And so you just go about your day. But when there's kids involved sometimes, but people are crazy because you'll go at Christmas time and you'll look on their patio and they got boxes and boxes of toys that they bought their kids, right?
And they'll leave them all there when they evict.
Beer boxes everywhere.
Yep.
And you're sitting there going, man, come on, I'm here you didn't pay your rent, but you had a really good Christmas, but where are you going to celebrate it next year? In a way. So sometimes we don't make the best decisions either.
But they do. They leave everything back when they leave. Here is all the kids' gifts. Here's all their clothes. Like, they leave everything.
Well, every place you get back, you get possession back after something like this. It tells a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can see what they're spending their money on and the choices they're making. Instead of keeping a roof over their head, they decide to get a big screen TV, or they, are spending it all on booze and cigarettes or pot or whatever.
Ton of marijuana right now. Open up the door and just here comes the smoke.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it tells a story about priorities, and unfortunately, you get a lot of sob stories in there, but a lot of it is self-inflicted. Sure, bad things happen. I'm sure you've seen some really unfortunate things with life, but okay, let's get on to more cheerful topics here. Then we'll double back for the misery. But now, did you get scared off at all about owning like rental properties when you went out before, you made a foray into the dark side of real estate investing? Did you eventually, end up buying some of your own stuff?
No, I loved it. I got a little hooked on the adrenaline when I bought my first house for me. And in a couple of years, I sold it and I saw the appreciation in my 20s. And I kind of went, wait a minute.
Yeah. Light bulb went on for you.
Whoa. There's a lot of, money to be made here. And so then I started moving every 2 years. And then soon I'm like, why am I selling my houses? Let's just keep the ball rolling, And so, that appreciation is what really sucked me in. And then when I was younger, I'd go buy new homes. And in Phoenix back in the day, they would give you the price of the home today, but they would take a year to build it. So I had no payments for a year, and I waited for the house as appreciation went up and up. And by the time I closed, I had $30,000-$40,000. In fact, at one point in Phoenix, appreciation was going so well that I made $300,000 the day I closed it. I double closed it. I closed it for me, and I turned around and sold it to a California investor. Owned it for less than minutes. And walk away with $300,000. I mean, that's just how the market was back in the day.
Well, so Jerry Schlickburn said the same thing because she was in Arizona, and she said when the crash happened, she had 5 $1 million homes that they would just buy and turn real quick and make a few $100,000 on each one.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where the market turned while you were working on this plan and it went the other way, like catching a falling knife?
And I actually loved it, right? Because if you don't have to sell, who cares?
You just hang on to it and eat it for a while.
I just have people paying my mortgage for me. I don't really care what the value is. Now, if I have to sell, it's going to affect me, right? So if I'm in my own home and I get another job out of state, or I have to, that sucks. But when you're an investor and you go down dip, that's fine, because what do, right? It's now a new opportunity to add to our portfolio.
Yeah.
And as we came out of 2009, I probably bought 5, 6, 7 more homes in probably 2010 and killed it, right?
Yeah.
I even had one situation where I went in to do a short sale with a person, and the bank rejected the short sale for $140,000. And I just kept watching the house, and a year later, the bank sold it for $125,000. And I'm like, guys, you could have had $140,000 a year ago on a short sale, but everybody was panicking at that point. And so those were really some golden years. I mean, a lot of the investors we see nowadays, a little older investors, really cleaned house right there. I mean, I believe you only have like 3 or 4 waves in your life of up and downs, and you better be ready for them. And that was a really good wave right there.
Yeah, I think back to that time because I got started in 2005. So I was just kind of getting my feet under me during, 05, 06, and then 07, the music stopped. And then I didn't have much going. I had a few flips and a couple of rentals, but it wasn't like a huge amount. And then I kind of went crazy during, 08, 09, 2010, 11, and just bought everything I could, like REOs. But I didn't have the capacity that I do now, not even close. So I just did what I could with what I had at the time. And, and still it worked out awesome. But yeah, it's just so funny how the timing of it in a, 3-4 year period that you don't realize is happening at the time until you see it, 10 years later. And you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, that was the time.
Do you guys feel that there's a wave happening right now, since you can get really good cash deals right now? You can get deep cuts and discounts on properties, I feel. But with the potential of a change in leadership and interest rates potentially going down a significant amount in spring, do you think that we're actually in one of those waves right now of opportunity?
I think as an investor with a little bit of money behind you, yes, those are there. Brand new investors coming out that are relying on 6.5%, 7% interest.
Cash buyers.
Prices are up. Yeah, cash buyers are going to kill it right now. I think when these rates drop a little bit more, your prices are going to go up. Right? There's going to be more people running to it. Now, you guys in Omaha here are in a way different market than we are in Phoenix. I feel like you're 15 years behind us, which is fantastic for you guys. Like, buy everything you can, in my opinion, because as beautiful as your city is becoming, people will flock here. People are leaving other areas that are not good investing areas, and they will come here and they will buy up stuff. So if you're in Omaha right now, I just feel like we're 15 years ahead of you. That's not a knock. That's like a great thing. We've seen what happens to these beautiful, smaller cities. And you're not small, don't get me wrong, but compared to some of the big ones, right? Now is the time. And what I would tell anybody is the most important thing I ever did is I just got in the game. It wasn't even like, oh, I killed it on my first investment. I just get in the game. And once you get in the game, you start playing the game, great things happen. But it's so hard. There's so many people that say, yeah, don't do it. It's too scary. You're going to have a bad tenant if it's a long-term hold. You're going to not buy the right home on a fix and flip. You're gonna lose out. Everything is an excuse of why I shouldn't get into it, because that's the safe play for a lot of people is if I don't get into this, then it's business as usual right now. I'm telling you, the best thing you could do for yourself is just get in the game. My son bought his first property. I think he lost $15,000 on his fix and flip, right? He was 21 years old. I loved it. It was like school for him. I'm like, there you go, man. That's what happens when you don't check the roof the right way. Right. And I didn't come over the top with his first investment and be the dad of, I'm like, no, you go.
You weren't going to rescue him at every little turn.
And when he came back and said, Dad, then, we opened up a wall and then, hey, welcome to the club. What'd you find back there? Sometimes it's, $10,000 stuff in the wall, and other times it's mold and, or
asbestos and lead paint.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And most of the time it's that, right? But he got in the game, and now he's 28 on his sixth home, buying his sixth home. And he can't tell you that his first experience in real estate was great, but you learn a lot, right?
Yeah. So. To kind of like just go off of what you were at, your original question, Ted, like how, what do we think of the market right now? And I love what you said there about, you have to zoom out and do it with a lens of, I always say you have to give it 10 years, because if you buy something, it's not like it was in 2020 where you could buy something and just wait a couple of years and make, $100,000 in appreciation and sell it. I mean, we were even getting that in Omaha. We're traditionally known as more of a stable, like kind of a cash flow market. But we get decent appreciation because unemployment is really good here, jobs are good and all that. But I guess to finish the thought on the 10-year thing, I look at it as every property that I buy, I'm doing 10 years from now Owen a big favor and my family a big favor. So I like to look at it that way, because I know that even in our lower appreciation area compared to, say Phoenix, I'm going to have $100,000 for sure. It doesn't even matter what I buy. I could buy a crappy rental in Council Bluffs or a rougher part of Omaha, and it's probably going to double or maybe close to it in 10 years. And I mean, history has proven that out.
I was going to say, look at the statistics of history.
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
Right.
Housing prices are not going to go down, stay down. They are going to continue to grow. And, our big problem in Phoenix is we're not keeping up with the income. The income's not keeping up with the property prices. And I think that's what's kind of slowing our property down a little bit, is just affordability. But if income rose, I mean, those prices would just keep on trucking along.
Yeah, and I was looking at a stat. We were I was talking about this with a group of a couple of weeks ago, but I was looking at multifamily and single family home starts and permits, and especially for the larger developments, like even commercial, but specifically multifamily. There were, roughly, let's say 3,300 new units of multifamily that are delivered roughly on an annual basis. But during 21, 22, 23, when interest rates got a lot tougher, inflation spiked, you had a lot of developments that got killed and, just forever, like they're not going to happen. So the new permits and the new starts really just, the brakes just happened then. And so the deliveries of new multifamily product are going to be a lot lower in 26, 27, 28 than they have been traditionally for the last several years. So I think that's going to lead to more demand, probably a higher increase in rents locally here, just micro market. But yeah, that's interesting take on that with Phoenix and the whole 15-year kind of lag that we have. I can't poke holes in that. Although you guys obviously have a lot more desirable weather or consistent weather. So that's a little bit of a barrier for a lot of influx and refugees here.
We'll compare in January. But
that's true.
But then we'll go compare in July.
Yeah, you were super excited about the cold weather.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be a little refreshing because were you born and raised around the
native Arizona? Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a lizard.
Yeah,
100% cold-blooded.
We were talking about hitting negative 40 last year. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" He goes, "Can you go outside?"
Yeah,
your lungs freeze. I don't know.
I feel like your tears freezing on your face and your
under 70 wearing sweaters. I'm not kidding you. People laugh at us all the time. It's just it's the weirdest thing. But.
Well, like 70 degrees hits different when you're going from 100 to 70 than when you're going from like 40 or 30 to 70. It's like it's a little chilly.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to give you some homage here for Rent Perfect. Can you tell us about the platform, how it all came about?
Yeah, so most background screening companies, they're instant, and you go ahead and you put in your information on your future applicant, future tenant, and you get back an instant result back from them. That is all based on databases. So what happens in our industry is computer companies, data companies will come out and scrape the courts. They'll scrape these court records around the United States, and they're about 6 months old. They're usually not updated, and they just present you with a database. Okay, it's like a copy of a copy, right? Mm-hmm. A copy of the court record. They're outdated. Right. So we as private investigators, as we were hired, long time ago when I started this, we went into the courts and did backgrounds on people in the court system, live data. And so to make a long story short, we saw that landlords were getting gypped and they weren't getting the data they thought they were getting. And when they got something back on the reports that said no record found, it really meant no record found in our database, not that they don't have a criminal history or they don't have an eviction.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rent Perfect now is a full property management platform, but really at our core, we're an investigative agency. We're a PI agency, nationwide PI agency.
Interesting.
That takes your specific applicant and we dive deep into where they lived and where they worked. We check the smaller courts, right? Like the city courts, the county courts, the federal courts. And we just don't rely on some computer company to scrape data and then say, this is everything the United States have. That's not true. There's 3,300 counties in the country. They probably have data on 12 or 1,300 of those counties, right? Now, and when the data comes in, it's just not good. So we really wanted to give a quality background to a landlord because as a landlord myself, I wanted to know, is there an eviction filed on this guy this morning? And that's why he's on my doorstep today.
Yes,
right. And if you give me a database that is 6 months old, that doesn't help me when I move this guy in. And in 2 months down the road, I have an eviction.
You can find same day situations?
I can find by the hour situations.
So when somebody puts in a query on, an applicant, how long does it take to get a response? Obviously, it's not instant, right?
Well, remember, we're going to 17,000 city courts. We're going to 3,300. Every court's different. Some courts have immediate. Some courts we wait. Some courts we call the clerk, right? And that's what the investigator is doing back there. We're not, AI is lovely. I love AI. I love technology. You cannot replace a background check on someone with AI. You cannot do it. I mean, it sounds sexy, right? Oh yeah, AI. No, your instincts as a human being or as an investigator are way more powerful than AI will ever be when you see either misspellings or addresses that don't make sense. You're putting together someone's life and you're like, wait, there's a 5-year gap right here. Where were they for 5 years? In prison, right?
Yeah.
And so really, we really tout when people say, hey, what's the difference between you and all the others out there? We are a deep dive PI agency that usually you think would be expensive. You think it would take a long time. But we do this in 4 to 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
Right? And we're $47 to the applicant to do the background. We don't even have the landlord pay us. The applicant pays us directly. And so it's free to the landlord.
Yeah, nice.
And it's gone gangbusters. This is really, really, once you use us, and even if you have a chance the thing about a background is you can't touch or feel it, right? You can't, if you're at a store buying 2 shirts and you can touch and feel them, here you have to believe what we're telling you. Because there's really no way to touch or feel that data unless you take a comparison of every company and you lay it out and you're like, wait, Rent Perfect is showing us so much more than the other guys, but a lot of people won't do that. So I have to go out and just preach, like, guys, just trust me. Just trust me that this is what you want.
I think we do a live version.
I'm sold already.
I think we do a live version. I think we do a background check in Owen, and we do the Rent Perfect version. Then we'll do the app that I've been using prior to this, and then we'll show everybody the results.
Listen, we don't have an HR department here, Ted, at RIA Radio, is all I'm saying. No, I caught an episode of podcast that you did. I'm trying to recall. I listened to a couple of them, but you had, I believe, a guest on, and you had a really interesting conversation about when you're processing a tenant application, or even if you're doing a showing, right? Mm-hmm. And you really talked about some nuanced things that are subjective, that aren't going to show up on a background report. And like specifically, what comes to mind is you talked about they smell like smoke. Right?
Yes.
They say they're a non-smoker on their application, but they show up and they reek of, they just blaze down a hot boxed a couple of Marlboros on the way over to the showing, or they smell like weed or whatever. And then you mentioned like, and I think it was the guy that you had on mentioned, he looks at how they dress, he looks at their car and see what kind of condition it's in, how they're treating it. And then you also made mention of like everyone is always nice to you when they want an apartment or a place to live, right? So they're always going to be on their best behavior and be like, oh, they're the nicest person ever. And then it's like, no, everybody is acting like that.
They want something.
So we're immediately when I was listening to that, and it was a fascinating conversation. And if I can dig it up, we can link to it in the show notes. But what I'm curious about, so Rent Perfect, I would assume then you have a place where you can enter, here's the applicant's name, here's their information, and then you can enter notes in based on your showings with them. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So it's even easier than that. So what you do is when someone wants to apply, you just send them a link and they get a text and an email. They fill out their name. They fill out everything. But then, yes, you have a file on them that you could upload docs to, you can write notes on, and works really well. But we've made it where the landlord doesn't have to do a whole lot. We want the applicants doing everything, but you can upload what you need to upload in there, Going back to, I think, the episode you're talking about, and we have a few episodes out there, but we do that. But one of the things, in fact, we went over last night in RIA is one of the questions that I love to ask in a showing is, what are you going to miss about the property you're at now if you move into my place?
Ooh, that's a great question.
This is money.
Yeah.
And it's just an open question. And so, we're looking at maybe the cars, but sometimes people, you never live on just one piece of data. Right. We want to get everything we can get, because we talked about last night, if you're going into business with somebody, would you put an ad out on Zillow or on Craigslist saying, does anybody want to go into business and open up an ice cream shop with me?
Right. Yeah.
And yet in a matter of hours, we're ready to hand someone $200,000, $300,000 asset. Right. So we got a very little time to learn a whole lot about them. Now, there's a caveat. I don't want to talk about declining people because their car is dirty. You're declining them because they answered the question wrong. You actually have to have a set criteria, and that's a great thing to know about.
And that was exactly where I was going with this. Is like how much does subjectivity play into the actual like hard like a criteria that you're setting? And is it discoverable? Like if you had a fair housing audit, are they going to be like, well, so you didn't rent to this person because they had bad shoes on or whatever? Ted doesn't have shoes on.
My shoes are on right now.
Are they? Yeah. Wow.
It's because I don't have slip-ons.
He takes his shoes off during podcasts like a savage.
Sure? I'm smelling something. No?
My feet don't smell.
Oh, yeah, that you know of. Anyway, sorry.
But so go back to this question, and then how it plays out to the criteria is I will ask this question. And really, I'm just gathering data at this point. I really don't even care kind of what they say. I care how they say it, right? So the couple questions the couple answers that I give as examples is if someone says, I'm going to miss my neighbors. They are fantastic. I love them. Really good neighbors. What do you know when they move into your property? What kind of neighbor are now they going to be?
They're going to be a good neighbor.
They're going to be a good neighbor. They get along with people. But if they say, they turn my positive question into, what are you going to miss about your current place if you move in here? And they say, well, let me tell you what I'm not going to miss. When I hear the word, now you're going negative on a positive question, it tells me a lot about you, right? I'm not going to miss the landlord that never returns my phone calls. I'm not going to miss a landlord that never fixes anything. Here's the reality is if you let them rent your place, and they might qualify, they may not at this point, I don't know. You're probably going to be that landlord that doesn't return their phone calls or doesn't fix their stuff because you just got 15 calls a day and they're just a pain, tenant.
High maintenance.
High maintenance. We all got our lives going. We want to kind of set it and forget it. And I'm not here to babysit you, right? So in the criteria, you come back and you have an approved based on your criteria. You have a declined based on your criteria. But then there's this small window, we call conditional. And conditional is, hey, you've met most of my marks, but maybe your credit score was just a little bit under my approved, but not quite my automatic denied. But let me go look at your job. Let me look at your income. So you do get a little bit of discretion in that category. Now, I've never met somebody who has had a criminal record or has been awful at one part of their life and stellar at the other, right? I'm a 70, 75 credit score, but I'm a crackhead. I mean, usually if we get all the data, it usually creates a pretty easy picture, right? Where you can stay in your criteria and you can treat everybody the same. The problem is if you don't fill your bucket up with enough data, you're not going to see the picture. And so we really teach, don't just get a credit bureau. I mean, that's a yes or no. That's great. Don't just do a criminal history in Omaha. Do it nationwide, right? Do it all. I mean, the reality is you are gathering data as a private investigator. You are gathering data everywhere you go. And so it starts with the phone call when they ask you about your property. What kind of questions are they asking you? How are they asking you? How easy is it to meet with them? I mean, you just really need to be calculating all of this just to create the picture. So when you decide, is this going to be my next future tenant? And can I call them business partners because I think they're very, very valuable people. When they live with you for 5 years, pay $2,000, they're worth $125,000. So to me, I use the word tenant, but I like to use business partner because I think they're valuable. I mean, we don't make money unless the people come in and give us money.
Right.
The property's great. You can buy it for cheap and everything, but that's not going to make you money unless someone's willing to pay you to live there and fill up your pocket. So if I use business partner in the future of this podcast, I'm talking about what you know as a tenant.
Interesting.
Okay. Because I really give them a lot of value. And if you give your tenant a lot of value, I think that relationship works out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you make more money if you give them the respect that they are. Because I found that if they go through divorce, if they lose their job, if they get sick, if they die, if they get cancer, whatever they do, it's going to affect you no matter what. It's going to affect you. You are tied to your business partners out there that are living in your homes. So you better find the right ones.
What's your guys' thoughts on when you get an applicant in and personality and, everything checks all the positive boxes, credit scores, let's just say bad. But then when you look into it, you see that they have a perfect, payment history with their property, with their rent. Is that something that you guys would say, oh, wait, they check every box, their credit shit, but they've always paid rent on time?
Well, I would say if they're in that conditional range of your criteria, then yeah, you can make that choice. If the credit is underneath your criteria, you have to decline them. You have to live by your criteria.
Because they can come bite you in the ass.
Yeah, because you have to treat everybody the same when it comes to fair housing, right? And so I know this doesn't always happen. I know, but we have to teach people the way it needs to be done, the way that the law is here on this podcast. And the reality is if you have to stay consistent. If you say rent is $1,500 a month and someone comes to you and says, I can't afford $1,500, I can only afford $1,400. And you say yes, you're not treating everybody the same.
Yeah. That's a fair housing issue.
Because someone would say, hey, well, you go to $1,400, and you might say no to them and yes to them. You have to stay consistent into this criteria. But once again, there's this conditional factor that you would weigh in on all this stuff. You might say in your criteria, remember, this is all how your criteria is set up. You could say, we accept a general credit score of this, but we also look at if it's student debt, if it's medical, if it's whatever, we have the right to adjust. I mean, you can do that in your criteria. That's why criteria are so they're just so valuable to really spend some time on and really figure out. And we have sample criteria we send out to people.
Oh, that's good.
They want to.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Okay, info@rentperfect.com. Just say, hey, I want a sample criteria. We will send you a sample criteria. And it's a detailed sample criteria. So it talks about a lot of things that you don't even think about. For example,
we'll make sure John puts that in the show notes also.
Perfect. Yeah. For example, if someone comes in and wants to rent from you and you're like, hey, this is great. And they're like, yeah, well, I'm not going to move in for 2 months. Your criteria is to say, once you apply and approved, you have to move in within 2 weeks. Right?
That is actually a really good soundbite. I know this intuitively, but I don't think I've ever had the same conversation with somebody. Because you'd be like, oh man, they're great. They're a perfect applicant. They're high income. They, great credit score. They're nice people, not annoying. And then, I can't move in until October or whenever it is. And you're like, ugh.
Well, a lot of cities and states around the country are adding what they call source of income protection, right? And so you can't deny Section 8 housing. But in my criteria, if I say you have to move in 2 weeks from your approval date, Section housing takes 30 to 60 days to get approved, all the paperwork, all the inspections. That takes Section 8 out. Not like we're looking to take Section 8 out, but I'm just saying they can't hold you hostage and have your place empty waiting for them if that's in your criteria. It's not in your criteria. They're like, you never said this. This was never talked about.
No, okay, point of clarification. Do you advertise if I'm let's say I'm a landlord and I want, well, either whether I am or whether I'm not using Rent Perfect, but let's say I have my set of criteria and let's say they're decent set of criteria. Do I list that in the advertisement for my vacant unit? Do I put it right, the whole thing right in there? Like applicant must have 620 credit score, have to, make X number, all that stuff.
Save you all the bullshit that
comes
through
because
too.
Don't even reach out to me if you're not going to pass this.
And the reason I ask that is because you don't see that a lot.
No.
At least in my experience in looking at rental listings, I think that's a huge miss by landlords.
Oh, and when I go around and teach at these RIAs around the country and I say, how many of you have a criteria? Very few hands.
Really?
Very few hands.
Because I'm always just like, my property manager's got the criteria, but I don't know what it is.
A lot of small landlords are just flying by the seat of their pants. They don't even really know what criteria is, to be honest with you. So that's very critical. If you're new into this game, get to know this document for sure. So yeah, criteria is just,
I mean, you've been in this game for a long time.
What I do sometimes too, like let's say I have and I've had a couple of these. I generally don't try to buy in like rough areas, but I've had a couple that have been like fringy. They're like mostly decent people, but you'll see a dude with a shopping cart with a bunch of metal in it, rolling around. That type of neighborhood.
There's money in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we have kind of like, I guess some of the management companies I've worked with, they'll recommend like tiers. So they'll say, okay, you have a C-class property or one that's kind of on the, fringy location. Maybe you don't accept credits, or maybe you don't check credit scores. Maybe if it's a, little bit better area and you want a little bit better class of tenants, or it's realistic to get a better class of tenants, you'll set like a 620 credit score. And then maybe it's 680 for nice properties or 700, whatever it is. But you have a tier based on at the property level, not just across the board for all of your rentals. You can adjust it accordingly.
100%. So I have a couple single family homes down the street from each other. They're both going to share the same criteria, same neighborhood.
Yep.
I have one up in Scottsdale that's considerably more money. That's a way higher criteria.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, you wouldn't want to go portfolio wide with a criteria. It is specific to the property. Because think about that. You have one in a bad area and you're requesting a 700 score to move into there. Your Scottsdale or your higher area criteria. You're never going to find anybody.
Yeah.
That's going to move there with that, right? So it's definitely specific to the property.
Now, drilling down into this topic a little bit, you talked about, with keeping in mind, you can adjust at the property level and that way you get potentially a tighter screening criteria and so forth. But just in my experience in renting or taking a chance on people with a lower credit score, it's never worked out for me. It's always been they end up owing me money after they move out. And that's
why they call him Owen.
And Owen Money. That's my handle. Owen Money Real Estate.
How many times did you say, I knew this was going to happen?
Yeah, every time.
I should have listened. I had 2 or 3 people come to me last night. Yeah, they were a friend of a family, or they were recommended, and I took a chance on them. And
now you may get some outrage from people who are like, "Whoa, that's a bunch of bullshit," because blah blah blah. I always look at their report though, and like you said, it could be a medical collections where they got leukemia or something, and now they're fully recovered, and that's a perfectly understandable job interruption. Of course, they're going to be in tough times. And I have rented to people, like I had a couple little old ladies that one of them had gone through a bankruptcy for that reason. And she had recovered and had steady job history for a couple of years, but there was a BK on her record for like 2 or 3 years ago. And I took a chance on them, and they were my best tenants ever. They were just fantastic people. But that was a combination of all those things. And I looked deeper into it, like you said, instead of just saying, nope, credit score is crappy. There's bankruptcy on there. And then I'm rejecting them. I would have missed out on a 12-year tenant, and that's that paid like clockwork. So
and I have a similar story going through a foreclosure back in 2009, 2010. Still lived there. Paid half of my mortgage off for me. So, bad things happen to good people. Okay. Just because you're looking at a low score, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. They are never bad people. I never look at anybody as bad people, but I do look at this as a business for us. We are in a business, right? Now, if I want to rent to my family members and take care of my family members that struggle a little bit, then that's my choice. But legitimately, why are you a landlord? So if you're getting into this game, you have to ask yourself, why are you a landlord? Some people say, Dave, I want to put people that are coming out of prison into homes and help them flourish in life now. That's very admirable, right? So they don't care about criminal history. They don't care about score, because their purpose of their business is to help people get reintegrated into society. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to build wealth for my family, for my kids, and give us financial freedom. And in order to do that, I'm sorry, maybe that's why people hate landlords, is this is a business for me, and I have to do everything I can to protect my properties. So if I'm a no, there is somebody out there who's willing to help you. Just move on down the road and find somebody whose purpose is to help people, get out of a tough time. I'm not that landlord, and I'm sorry I'm not, but that's not the business that I'm in.
Yeah, and I may catch flack for this, but I just think the people that you're talking about, and I definitely know some of them, and they have a big heart and they want to help out, and they maybe can relate to some of the people that need a hand up, or a handout. But there's other ways to do it than putting your own family's financial future at risk. Like you could work in a part-time basis for a nonprofit that helps transition people from one place to another. That could be your contribution to it. I'm not saying there shouldn't exist that type of thing, but I think those are more suited to like government or nonprofit related entities rather than somebody's like, you're taking a huge risk renting to a felon, even, maybe they're recovering, but maybe they're not. You don't always know. I had a gal that I rented to one of my rentals, like in my little town that I live in, and she's a awesome tenant, like really good communicator, kept a good house, she was clean, all the stuff, really responsible. And then she's like, hey, I have this guy I've been dating. We're getting kind of serious. And she was a parole officer. Okay. You know where she met him?
Prison.
He was one of her parolees. And he was an arsonist. Okay. So here's where I'm going with this.
Is this the person who dropped the Molotov cocktails?
No, it was not. Okay. It was not. That was a different person. No idea who that dude was. But anyway, so she's like, I just want to make sure it's okay for him to move in. And I made the mistake of allowing it. And he moved in. And, I said, well, I have to process his information just like everybody else. Of course, I knew he had gone away and he's out now, but he's supposedly on the straight and narrow. He was in transitional housing and they wanted to move in together.
Married a good woman.
Yeah.
She's going to straighten him out.
Completely changed. And then, then she called me and said, I have a restraining order against him. Like he, got drunk and like, he's looking like he was going to be violent and all this stuff. And she wanted me to change the locks. And I'm like, oh my God.
How fast?
It was probably about 6 months.
Okay.
See, and that's why in your criteria we talk about you should have what you will accept timelines, right? If you committed a crime a long time ago and you haven't committed another crime, you've learned your lesson.
Yeah.
You're probably a better citizen, to be honest with you, right? And you probably won't do that again, right? But if you continue to repeat this crime, these drugs, this break-ins, these arson, whatever you want, you just can't get away from it. The past predicts the future. And so we never are anti-criminal at Rent Perfect at all. We just say, hey, a little bit of time needs to go by to prove if you're the ones who has learned your lesson or hasn't learned your lesson. So in your criteria, you might say, we won't take a felony in the last 10 years. We won't take a misdemeanor in the last 5 years. But on that 5 year and 1 day, move on in. That's great. But that's another reason that you need to have that in your criteria in a detailed, right? So the reality is your own criteria here. If you would have done the background, you said, hey, I'm sorry, it's going against my criteria. I can't do this now.
Yeah, you blame the screening rights criteria.
You and I are twins because we have almost the exact same story. I had a gal who lived with me rented from me for 3 or 4 years. She was fantastic. Never missed a beat. Called me one day. She was in a 3-bedroom. Dave, I'm getting married. Oh, hey, awesome. Congratulations. But we need 4 bedrooms because he has a couple of kids. I'm like, okay. So same thing. Moved him into the 4-bedroom. Didn't vet him. Had all of my eggs in her basket going, she's been phenomenal. She deserves this. Her judgment would be really good. She wouldn't pick, And next thing I know, I have kids playing on my roof, damaging a neighborhood with a golf cart and banging people's, mailboxes. And all of a sudden this great situation of mine turned into, you need to get out. You need to get out. And so, people's lives change as people enter and leave their lives. Their lives change too. And so we need to make sure that we kind of vet, well, if this person's coming into your life, can we foresee if it's going? And also, that's hard to do, right? I mean, we can't, make all these projections that we really don't know. But once again, if we stick to our criteria, it might save ourselves from making those decisions.
I think that what goes a really long way with this whole landlord-tenant communication chain is if you over-explain on the front end the reasons why you are going to make a decision. Meaning, you can paint a picture, right? You can tell the story and be like, I've had a situation happen before where, everything was going great with this tenant, moved in somebody, things went completely sideways. They trashed the house, blah, blah, blah. I've had that happen. You tell them I've had that happen a bunch of times. To protect myself, I have to treat every person that's going to walk into this house like you and I don't have a relationship. Like I have to start from scratch with this person. And be like, that makes sense. I mean, how are they going to say, well, that's, you know what I mean? If you put it that way. So I think it's all about how you position it also, having in that conversation. Yeah.
I would also warn people though, that they probably shouldn't talk too much. Sometimes when you're talking and explaining, right, people are taking it the wrong way. Sometimes when you're as a landlord talking, I think really you're safer saying, guys, I am so sorry, but I have to treat everybody the same and I have to live by this document. You can read this document. You talked about putting it online. I give it at the time of the showing too. So by the time they apply with me, if they don't pass that criteria, I'm like, man, I gave you 2 opportunities at least to say I can't pass this criteria. So I don't feel bad sending you an adverse action letter and declining you because I gave you 2 opportunities to show you what I'm looking for. But I had a situation where a lady called me and she said, hey, I'm getting sued by Fair Housing. And
was this was a landlord?
This is a landlord.
Yep.
And I said, okay, so tell me a little bit about, what happened. She's like, well, I wanted to raise the rent on my tenant. And so I raised the rent and she asked me, why are you raising the rent? And she said, well, because my insurance has gone way up because the Black Lives Matter movement. Right. And I'm like, you said,
oh my God.
You said what? Right. Because she was so afraid just to raise the rent and say, why are you raising rent? Because I can.
Right.
Right. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
We don't have to explain everything. So I know what you're saying as far as over communicating and really letting them know. But the reality is I would communicate what you need to communicate, right? And I can't tell you every conversation you're going to have. You guys are all on your own. You know what's smart or not, but just be also cautious of just blabbing.
That's good. Really good feedback.
And because what we're saying is not always what they're hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're going to put their own words into it.
And the wrong person is going to hear you differently than what you meant to say. So I say, the old adage of God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Let's just say really focused on what we're doing. Let's make sure we treat everybody the same. If we need to explain something, I'm okay with that, but let's just not get too crazy with it.
Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense.
When was the last time that we had this in-depth of a conversation about your criteria? I don't think I've ever...
Never?
Definitely not in a podcast, but not even in person, let alone just saying basic information.
But this stuff...
This is so important.
This blocking and tackling, like all, the X's and O's of this, it is so important to have this nailed down on the front end. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for thousands of dollars, potentially of lost rent, damages, putting the wrong person in your house, evictions, all that stuff. So there's nothing more important than this on the front end.
Well, I also love the document too, because I blame the document on everything. I never say me. Like, I'm not declining you. Listen, I'm so sorry. This dang document, you're not fulfilling what it takes. And dang it.
Yeah.
Dang it, that document. Bad document, right? I would love to do this.
I legally have to abide
legally, by law.
Fair housing.
This is, and the reality is if you're declining too many people, then your criteria is too high. Go back and revisit your criteria, right? But do it on a separate day. Don't do it on the same day as you just decline someone, change your criteria. Next guy walks in and he would have qualified. Be very, very careful about that.
Okay. Maybe I just thought I'd bring this up. So kind of circling back to what I was mentioning earlier about the subtleties and the things that you notice. And then if you put those notes into the system, I was just wondering and maybe, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right forum to talk about this, but if you're looking at them and their story's not adding up to what they're telling you, and you know that there's something that's off, and you see that their car looks like a pigsty, or they smell like smoke, and there's several things, or they say they don't have pets and they have cat hair or dog hair all over themselves. There's little nuanced things like that you
You're
can
a little
notice.
private investigator yourself, Owen.
Yeah. But is there, I guess, 2 things. One, do you have any other things that come top of mind that are maybe things that won't pop up on a criteria sheet that are important to take a look at? What, maybe do you have any examples?
So criminal is real easy, right? You have a criminal record. It doesn't match my credit score, eviction, right?
Yep.
The little small nuances that you're talking about, the questions I ask, you're the victim mentality, right? All this stuff. I will not move forward until I talk to your past landlord. I will not move forward until I talk about that cat hair. I talk about the smell of the smoke. I talk about I ask a question. I say, did you return their full deposit to them? Right?
That's a good question.
I don't ask subjective questions to them. Did you like them? Did you not like them?
Yep.
People have their opinion. I ask questions that I can prove, and it keeps me out of trouble, right? Did you give them their full deposit back? Yes or no? It's a real simple yes or no. No, I didn't give them their full deposit back. I don't even say why. I'm like, okay, great. They didn't leave the home the way they were supposed to, right? And I check mark these boxes. Did you smell smoke when you went into the house? Oh, yeah, they smoke, or cigarette butts. So your past landlord can be your best friend on those small nuance things. Because they're going to verify what you're implying, but you don't have true facts because you just get a little bit of an inkling on it. Mm-hmm. They can say, no, you are right. Okay, great. There's a fact. I have another person testifying. They have a cat. They smoke. They damage the property. Right?
Yes.
They had cops called on them a ton of times. I mean, there are things they can tell you that just say, hey, you don't have sufficient rental history in order to move into my property.
No, okay. What about this? So I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot of situational little things at you here, but I've had people, and everyone's had people at some point, if you've been doing this for long enough, where you call one of their references, or it's a, quote unquote former landlord, and it's like their mom, or they have a friend do it, and it's really hard to suss out who you're talking to is who they say you're talking to. Are there any tricks or tips that you have for maybe trying to put the big picture together with that part of it?
So once again, I'm going to go back to rental criteria.
Yeah.
Right? We do not accept rental history if you've lived at your parents' home and are not 18 or 19 coming out of the home fresh. If you're 40 years old living at your parents' home, we need to know why. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
Is it because you're in the middle of eviction and you had nowhere else to land, right? Now, there are circumstances that maybe at 40, you're moving back home for some reason.
Yeah.
You need to look into that and you need to listen to that. Right?
Yeah, because it could be caring for their parents, they're sick or whatever. There's got to be a story there, but yeah.
My rental criteria wants 2 years.
Okay.
2 years of history. So I would just go back. So if I had a friend that I was calling a friend they lived with, I would just keep going back to show me your rental history. If in the last 2 years, all you've done is lived at home, and your credit is beautiful and wonderful and you pass the criteria, then maybe they'll be a good tenant, right? But if everything's crashed, evictions, credit's down, living at home, there's probably a reason why they're living at home. So once again, I think if you get the whole picture, you will make the right decision.
Have you run across situations, I'm sure you have, and I'm sure your customers have, and I got a piece of advice a long time ago where it's not the current landlord necessarily you want to put 100% emphasis on, it's the one before that or the one before that.
Right.
And you can't stop with the first one, because
100%.
If I have a total pain in the ass tenant, I'm not saying I would do this, but if I had somebody and I was like, I don't care whose life they ruin after this, I just want them out of mine. You call me and you're doing a reference check, I may be like, yeah, they're good tenants, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm trying to get rid of my problem and dump it onto you. What do you think about that?
Here's what I think about that. During COVID, we saw this a ton when you had the eviction moratorium.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And people weren't paying rent. I couldn't evict them. And you would call me and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm selling my home. That's the only reason they're leaving. They've been great. They've been fantastic. And then I would say, okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Would never as a PI believe anybody's opinion. I want something factual. So I would go back to the applicants and I'd say, I need 12 months of bank statements from you.
Oh, that's interesting.
I need to see the income coming in.
Uh-huh.
And I need to see your rent going out, and I need to see the date the rent went out. And so I had a landlord tell me, oh my gosh, they're so great. They're so great. So I went and got bank statements and I said, hey, I noticed starting in August of last year, I'm not showing any rent payments coming out of your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught him, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to call that landlord back and say, hey, you haven't gotten rent since August.
Uh-huh.
And, we're both landlords, but hey, at that point, I guess they're just protecting their own. So I would require bank statements. Now, back in COVID days, I required 12 months because we couldn't go into the courts and find eviction records because there was none because there was an eviction moratorium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm down to 3. But I think bank statements are a very good backup for a lot of things you're talking about. I can see the money coming in. I can see the money going out. Right?
Yeah.
If they want to redact a few other things in there, I really don't care. I don't care that they shop at Starbucks every morning as long as they're making enough money to pay their rent. I don't care their spending behavior, but you'd be surprised what I see in spending behavior going, you could really afford a better place to go live if you didn't.
If you weren't such an idiot with your money.
Chick-fil-A and Starbucks and
DoorDash.
And the crazy amount of money that people spend. I really don't get into their lives and be their father or anything. And
I dropped this in ChatGPT and it created a whole budget for you just so you can see it, just so you know. this is a service we offer our tenants.
Ted's life coaching.
But guys, I go out. My daughter played golf for University of North Carolina, Asheville,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
So I'd follow around in some tournaments around the country. So I went out and met her in Hawaii. And we'd get up in the morning and she would get this, and I'm not much of a coffee drinker, so forgive me, but some caramel latte,
Frappuccino.
almost like a dessert more than a coffee, right? I mean, I don't know if there's how much coffee's in there because what I'm looking at is just cream.
They're like
sugar.
calorie bombs. They're like 600 calories or something.
So she gets one of those. She goes and plays golf. And on the way home, somebody start? There's another $16. Now, I financed all the schools, so my kids didn't have loans. So it's my money, even though it's coming out of your credit card or your, I'm the one paying that payment. I'm probably the sucker dad here, but and then we go to this Lulu's chicken or whatever it is.
Lolo's chicken.
Lolo's chicken, right? Sorry,
yeah.
Lolo's chicken. And she takes her first bite of her chicken. She's like, oh, I shouldn't have ordered this. I'm going to go get something else. And Hawaii is like 20 something bucks. I'm like $8 twice today, $16, 20. I'm $46 into this girl and she's ready to go get another meal today. And I said, no, absolutely. I'm kind of done, and we had this moment. We're in Hawaii. She's playing, Dad, why are you being such a jerk? And I'm like, I'm just kind of hit my point where we're not spending money on that kind of stuff anymore. I have let you get away with something that is a bad habit in life.
Yeah.
If you save that money, I mean, I don't even care if you put it in crypto. I don't care what you do. Put it somewhere that has a chance to grow. I don't care. You don't have enough to buy a property. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But man, we're just not blowing the money. And I think a lot of problems of our rental pool today is so much income is going to Netflix and to, cell phones. And I mean, you got to spend $500 to get your entertainment, your drinks, your phone before you even get to your rent nowadays. And your rent is not as important as the first $500 that they're spending money on, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So the rental pool out there, not only are we looking at now criminal history and evictions and all that, we have to look at almost their spending habits to make sure that they can afford their rent.
Dude, it amazes me how many people make the choices that they make on, they're going to, for sure, they're not going to have no cell phone. Like they will keep that and make that payment before they're going to pay rent. If it came down to it and they had to pick one, they're keeping their phone, right? Probably their car too, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like the choices that people make along that. And then like to your point, Netflix and Hulu and everything else. And it's just like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, and the funny thing is like, I used to be a financial planner before I got into real estate. So I kind of always had that. I'll kind of look at their whole financial picture and then you can kind of see what's broken there and then you give them advice. And so I kind of put that hat on sometimes. And like I had a tenant that was into me for, I don't know, like 3 months around. I'm not a good landlord when I self-manage. I have a good relationship with my tenants and I have some really long-term ones, which is great, but I'm soft.
Hey, we're going to keep you on Rent Perfect. And it is going to dial you in. You're going to be way better.
But I had this conversation with him and I'm like,
he needs it.
He's like, what, he's talking about, it's just tough. I have this, I'm not making as much money at my job and this and that. And I'm like, dude, do you know how easy it is to drive Uber or pick up a side hustle? I'm like, literally at no time in the history of mankind has it been easier to make extra income. So if you tell me that you can't pay rent, that tells me that you are so busy right now that you have zero time for it, or you're making choices with your time when you could be putting a roof over your head by paying rent. And so like we had a really tough conversation about that. I was just basically like, get your shit together, man. Get your life cleaned up. I'm gonna put you on a payment plan. You have, 6 months to get caught up on this. Otherwise we got to part ways. He got his act together, got a second job. His wife started working, which she didn't have a job before. And I'm just like, what are you people doing?
Yeah.
But whatever. I'm not a life coach. It's just so frustrating.
Sounds like you life coached them.
It's like kids,
Sounds like you fixed them.
It's just like kids. You can give them all the advice you want, but if they don't actually take steps to do the right things to put them on the right path, there's never going to get there.
So I have kids and maybe I've messed them up. I'm not sure, right? I did the best I could, but I'm not looking to rent to other people's kids or problems. I hate to be rude like that. That's why you have to qualify to get into my rentals, because the society is, we had 9 to 5 jobs back then. Like you said, we had a part-time, maybe we go in 4 to 8, we work at the movie theater, whatever. But you're right, with Uber, DoorDash, and all this gig economy, you can work 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, work now, I mean,
there's Fiverr, like Upwork, like you can literally do anything.
If you have time, you can work. We didn't have that back in the day, and we found a way to like rock and roll and survive and do it. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit hard, because
at $3 an hour.
Yeah, I know, right? And now you want tips after $18 an hour at the fast food restaurant. You want me to pay you tips? I mean, guys, you're making more money than we ever did. We just didn't spend it. So I always say we don't have an income problem in this country. We have a spending problem in this country, right? So I get off a little bit on this on a tangent a little bit, but we have to know this if we're providing housing. We have to know the people that we're going to be providing housing and making our business partners, right?
I think we need to start a new podcast called Jaded Landlords Unite, and then just have everybody get on and tell like their worst stories of owning properties together. That'd be pretty entertaining.
Where we let every single podcast host take the show over for a day.
But I want to tell people that are listening to this that this is the best business in the world. Like, we talk about some of the bad things that happen or whatever.
There's a reason we're still doing it, right?
Exactly. We're still here. We're still doing it because it's amazing. So listen to our stories, laugh a little, learn from them maybe, right? Don't make the same mistakes. But this is an amazing business. And if you're thinking about getting into it, you need to make that jump and do it because we're talking about maybe the 0.1%, the 1% of what we've done over 30 years. I mean, 30 years, we're going to have some stories. Yeah. Right. So they're fun to talk about, but I just don't want to discourage anybody. That's
a very good point. I mean, here's the thing too. It's like, if all we talked about was all the good stuff, people would be like, nope,
boring.
Skip. Yeah.
Boring.
They'd be like, I don't want to root for, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to celebrate everything. I want to hear the bad stuff.
Well, these badges become badges. They're kind of like, I went through that. Yeah, I went through that.
Yeah, it's like being in the military or whatever. Right. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen some stuff. But
one thing that I love though that you said last night when you're presenting at our local group, you said everything I'm telling you is to find that 5-year business partner. Mm-hmm. The goal isn't to have somebody in for a year, or just place it, fill butts and seats, right? It's to create a partnership. It's somebody that is going to be your long-term, in some ways, but not same ways, but like your long-term friend, right? They're the person, like you said, you're going to go introduce to the neighbors. Right. You want them to feel like they're home. And by doing the criteria, clear-cut, rules, doing a proper background check, going through all those processes that we've been hammering in for the last hour, this is how you get that long-term business partner.
100%.
Yeah, and that really, really hits home for me.
And I actually love when I get the phone call and said, "Hey, Dave, we're moving out. We bought a house." Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I actually rejoice.
That is, I like that too.
I rejoice with them and say, "That is fantastic. That's awesome. That is your first investment. Is your home. You're well on your way." I celebrate it. I don't ever go, "Oh man, I'm losing." I'm like, that's part of the purpose of me having this relationship. Though I'm not your financial planner, I'm not your business. I have helped you have a roof over your head as you've got your life together to now take the next step, And at that point, I'll help them move. I'm celebrating that phone call because we need more of that in this country. Less evictions and more, I'm going to go buy a home.
And, so I have my real estate license. And when I was doing long terms in the very beginning, before I got into the short term world, I would tell all the tenants, I'm like, hey, just so you know, if you use me as your real estate agent to buy a home, I'll allow that as a lease break without fines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you're getting a little, buyer's agent.
Also,
bonus.
it was saying, hey, congratulations. There's two ways to look at it.
Yeah,
right. But yeah, so I was also making a nice commission check on that, so it made it a little bit better.
and I do some short terms too. Not that we have another hour to talk about a different way of managing, but it is 100% completely different than long term.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of work, and then there's holes in that too. Where we have holes in our long term, there's a lot of holes in that too. That I think warrants a short term.
I could keep going here for seriously a couple more hours, but like I think we should do a part 2 where we talk about that aspect of it because we've had friends that have had squatters and nightmare scenarios. Ted himself has had so much drama. That'd be a really interesting convo to have.
I mean, the one story I will tell you is that I had an Airbnb book for like a month, but didn't know it, but it was paid through a family service company. Mm-hmm. So they stayed for a month. And then by the time I'm getting in there, 4 windows broken, a place completely trashed, and it was like thousands and thousands. It was like $7,000 in damage. Lady was the nicest ever. Well, come find out she's been homeless for years, and she's finally getting some sort of transitional housing from the city. But the city put her in my Airbnb. Whoever booked it had a great rating. But then when it came to damages, she couldn't afford to fix them.
Ted, she likes the fresh air, okay? Give her a break on the windows.
Well, it was the kids. They slammed them all shut and broke them.
Okay.
But you don't do background checks on people that come in for the weekend and short terms, right? Yep. And think about what we're talking about today. I've had way more problems in my short terms than I ever have in my long
That's
terms.
a great point about that.
And it's because I didn't know who the people coming into the property
You're
were.
beholden to their rating system,
Yeah.
right? And maybe they had, you have no idea who gave them a 5-star, or maybe they gave them a 5-star just because they didn't want to get a crappy review. You know what I mean? It's like there's that give and take. I don't like that whole rating system as the only way that you're able to get information on
So
people.
you book with me. And do I ever really go look at your rating system? And if I do look at
every time,
if I do look at your 2-star, do I then go back and rescind? You've already paid. And now I'm going to cancel, which Airbnb is then going to take you off your Superhost.
You have auto accept then?
I do.
I don't do.
So
none of mine have auto accept.
So that's what we need to cover, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
In part 2.
There's so much there. Okay, well, we'll table that for now, but I think that would be a really good segment too, to talk about short-term rentals and the differences and the huge differences in that. But we do have a section in our podcast that we call
Failing Forward,
where we talk about, we had a little baritone action going there. Late nights, both of us this week. But we wanted to bring up, we've been talking a lot about a lot of unfortunate situations, but I caught on one of your episodes, you were having a conversation with somebody, and I think you described yourself as this is early on, a good investor, but not a good landlord. I think that was either you or maybe it was your guest, because I was driving. I couldn't see who was talking there. But did you have anything early on, or maybe even recently, where it didn't go like you thought it would, and it was a kind of a gut punch, but you were able to rally and use it as a learning lesson?
Early on in my investing career, I didn't like the paperwork. I didn't like the onboarding. I didn't like the application process.
Same.
And when you don't like something, you don't do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was good at the background check, but I probably didn't cross my T's and dot my I's. I probably rushed through the process, and I probably got, the eviction, the criminal, and the credit, because that's what I did for a living. But I didn't have what we talked about today, the questions when, I showed the property. I didn't understand. I was young back then. I didn't understand all the pitfalls out there. And so I didn't love my rentals at the very beginning. I loved the appreciation on them, but I hated the management of them. But I guess I was too cheap to go get a property manager, because I never did. So I kept fighting through it and slowly learned along the way a better way to do this business. Right. So at the very first, there's some growing pains. There's some learning going on. I hated school personally. Couldn't stand college. My mind is going quick and fast.
I'm right there with you.
And ADD. And so I learned to slow down a little bit, get my criteria, and just kind of ease into being or developing a investment portfolio that really worked for me. But at the beginning, I was just young. So I don't even know that I purposely made any mistakes, other than I just rushed through it. I didn't know. And I'm glad I'm at where I am. I had to go through that to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I have to know what new landlords are feeling, their frustrations. So I had to be there. And I was there at one point. Right. They can't be me today. I can't teach them how to be me today and buy your first rental and be me tomorrow. You have to go through this, the phone calls, the meetings, the selling of your unit, the taking application. I mean, you just have to go through the process for a while to know what to look for and what not to look for. I have fun doing it now. I didn't have fun doing it at the very beginning.
Do you think everyone should manage their own rentals when they first get started?
I do.
For that reason.
I think you should manage your rentals forever, to be honest with you. Now, you're going to get to the point where you want to go do other things and it's too big and it's too. So I get why there's property managers.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem that property managers always take money from the upside and are never in on the downside. So they'll move someone in, they'll take their half a month or month, to occupy the property. And I don't mean to down property managers right now, but then they get your 10% off your monthly. And then here comes the eviction because they got the wrong person.
Yep.
Landlord, you're paying for all that.
Yep.
And then I'll go ahead and turn the property for you. You'll pay for that.
Yep.
And then I'll put a new person in. You'll pay for that. And then we'll go back to the 10% on a monthly basis. And there's never a downside to them. I wish some way we could have a company out there that said, hey, I'll pay half your eviction with you. If I don't put the right person in, if I don't manage them right, then I'm in on this with you. And so,
it gives them a hell of a lot more incentive on the front end to make sure the right person's in there rather than just heads and beds.
Yeah. If I were a property management company, I'd probably come up with some kind of, payment system where I lose when you lose, I win when you win. So it's in my best interest to make sure that we get the right people, the right time. But when they're using these instant databases we talked about, it's against them because they're not getting all the data that they should be getting. So right from the beginning, most property management companies, they go to like AppFolio, or they have their property management. They just push a button, go do the background check. It goes back instant. It comes back. Unfortunately, they have your best interest in mind. I think they're not saying that they don't care. They're just not getting the data that you would get through Rent Perfect, right? And so I've just always managed, and when you have the right system and the right software, you can do it. Guys, I run 6 different companies. I travel all over the United States, right? I don't miss a beat because my system is just doing things for me that I don't have to do anymore. And they're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Investing that time on the front end will set you up for success to do a lot more. You have a lot more bandwidth.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get convinced to self-manage?
No.
Okay.
No, he's going to have to spend more time with me to get me off that.
But some people's personalities too can't self-manage.
Yeah.
You have certain personalities that just can't self-manage.
Yeah.
So this is for me. This is why I don't get a property manager. If some people are way better turning it over to property manager with their personality, they're afraid of people. They're afraid to be tough. They're afraid to follow through. Nothing wrong with that. They have way better characteristics than I do on a lot of things. Right. But I hear some people, and I travel around, I never tell them I'm the owner. That's your style. That's great. Mm-hmm. I'm not knocking it, but I'm not afraid to say, yeah, I'm the owner, and I'm going to say no. And this is how we're going to run this. I have a different personality.
Yeah.
Where I want them to know I'm the owner, and someone else I'm talking to, I would never want them to know. Then I don't have to answer their questions right away. And I can say, well, let me go check with, I don't like to live in that world. That's not my style, but I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just,
we were talking about the criteria pretty deep. When it comes to the property manager, can we give them the criteria for our specific properties, or does the property manager have to have a blanket criteria across all of the management?
Well, your property manager are probably going to want a blanket because it makes their life easier, but you're the boss and you're in control. And if you want
I didn't know if there's a legal standpoint on that.
And if you want my business, this is the type of people. We have it where property managers will use Rent Perfect, and they'll have their owner as an agent, and they can look at everything through the Rent Perfect portal that their property manager is doing. And some of them say, I will be the one who approves somebody or not the property manager. And I'll look at it and I'll say yes or no. And so there's so many different ways to do this. Mm-hmm. And we're pretty flexible at Rent Perfect to allow different people to view different things and make different decisions. And so
I'm going to tell you what, in my back of my head, I know if I got into property management, I'd be the best property manager in the city and I would rock it. But I sure the hell don't want that job.
No.
It's not an easy job.
I mean, I think I would kick ass as a garbage man too, but I'm not going to go out and apply for any of those anytime
Well, you're
soon.
never going to get a call and say, hey, property manager, you're fantastic.
Right.
The place is great. I'm so happy. That's not the phone calls they get.
Owners are mad at them and tenants are mad at them generally.
Yeah,
they get it from both sides.
Yeah, it's a tough place to be.
I'm just going to put out there, I'd be a badass property manager.
For 10%, it's a tough place to be.
It is. Real quick, though, before we start wrapping up in the final questions here, you talked about not being a big school guy in education, but when I was looking for I reached out to National RIA to have a speaker. And I'm like, hey, I've never reached out. Is there somebody that you guys would recommend? And like, David's our highest recommended speaker. And so he came highly recommended. We talked on the phone briefly, went to the National RIA conference, saw you do keynote, you kicked ass, and then talked to multiple owners of National RIA affiliates. And they all had nothing but positive things to say. You come to town, great speaker, killed the speech last night. Hal Richmond said it was the best presentation he's ever seen. And you had lots of positive feedback along those lines. Where did you get your education to speak, or does it come naturally? And what tips would you give somebody that wants to start speaking?
So in college, I wanted to get out so fast. I went to my counselor and said, I don't care what degree I have. Just get me the one that I have the most credits for. And it was public speaking.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I hated it. And I got scared. And that's something I didn't want to do. And then I sat down and I thought, you know what? Why am I going to college? To learn stuff I already know or to get better at something I'm not good at? So I accepted the challenge and it got me out a little bit quicker, but I learned to love it. And honestly, guys, we would go do these group presentations for an hour in college, and we'd all meet out in the parking lot and have a shot of Jägermeister and then go in there and just kill it, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of took the edge off.
So you had a shot of Jaeger last night before?
Not last night. No.
Let's see, I didn't know you did that.
No, I gave that up in my early 20s. But
he's a Scotch guy now.
Yeah. But no, I have this drive to study the human brain. Like, I love the science of the human brain, right? And I love story brand. If you guys ever heard Donald Miller's story brand and how the American mind is programmed, and it's different than the European mind. And he talks about why movies are 2 hours. And in the first 8 minutes, you get to know the character. And then you have to have a conflict within the first 8 minutes, or you start asking yourself, where are we going with this movie? And our brains are actually mapped out to a science. And the reality is people want to hear stories. People want to hear real life. People want to know the speaker understands them and has been there. They want to see some humility. They want to see, hey, I screwed up. Hey, I learned. I'm one of you. Let me tell you some stories. The brain remembers those stories. I mean, not to get too religious, but parables in the Bible are what everybody remembers. They don't remember all these other chapters that tell us all this other stuff. They remember the parables that were given. And so I don't know that I'm great at public speaking. I just think I'm great at connecting with people. And I'm actually a recluse person, believe it or not. I'm not a big personality that's out there a lot. I actually like to keep to myself a little bit and just study. But I just know that when I'm with people, they understand stories. And so I tell a lot of stories.
You know, it's funny you say that, because when I look back at all my favorite books I've read over my life, like Jocko Willink,
Ownership, man.
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, all those books are storytelling about something that then leads to, what he's trying to get, the point he's trying to get across. And, the storytelling. And then if I think about some of the best speakers we've had at the Rio, and I've never really thought back about this, they kept on doing the points by hitting a story. And I was just on those, I was the most engaged, either the books or the speakers. So, and then you did every I don't know how many stories you told last night, but you probably told about 20. And also that's your superpower, Owen, is like when you're in conversations, you're always storytelling.
I tell long stories.
Yeah.
So guys, detailed. Real quick, I know we're against the clock here, but
we technically don't have time.
One of the first times I spoke in front of National RIA, probably 12, 13 years ago, they asked me to get up and introduce Rent Perfect and what we do. And I got up, I'm David Pickron. We started in 1992. We've been to we, I. And I didn't realize that my audience was like, right? What is in it for me? So the keynote speaker right after I got off the stage was Donald Miller with StoryBrand. And he laid out this human brain and how it works. And I wanted so bad to get back up.
To do over.
Because now I say, do you guys want to find the right tenant the first time that is in your property for 5 years and makes you $125,000? Now they're like, you're talking about me. And I'm here. I gave you an hour or two of my time. I want to know what's in it for me. When I was so busy telling you about me, I don't care. That doesn't do anything for me. What's in it for me? And if we can keep that in our brain saying, hey, when people are giving us their time, we need to be into their story. What's their story? What's their struggles? And it shifted my mind years ago to say, I want to tell them I'm here and I have a background and trust me. But after we're done with that, after your great introduction last night, I don't need to tell you more about me. Your introduction was fantastic. Now let's talk about how we can help you. And so that has been probably my favorite book. I listen to this we take that in, we go back and change our websites. We go back because it's so true. The brain wants to work a certain way. And unfortunately we are what's in it for me society.
Yes.
And it's changed a lot about how I've developed my
Man, that was a great soundbite right there.
Yeah,
that was good stuff.
Yeah, because I'm changing the way I speak based on our conversations that we've had this weekend, last night, today. And I don't do a ton of speaking, but I know that time is coming here real soon. And so I
embrace it.
Yeah. So but the storytelling, and I feel like I have some good stories to tell. And so maybe I need to be able to figure out how
you're a jukebox of stories, dude. You just hit a button on any topic and you've got a story. So, but I need to just communicating it and
communicating it better. And that's what I need to work on. So I appreciate that, because that's something that will affect me for the rest of my life.
Hey, I'm super impressed. Everything I've seen out of you. So don't knock yourself. You're fantastic.
No. I'm just saying that this is something I need to work on and focus on, and get better at it. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, in the interest of telling stories here, we've got 5 mini stories.
These are good.
We're about to pull out of you. Dave, I should ask you, is it Dave, David?
I've been called worse. It doesn't matter.
All right, we're going with Dave. I feel like I know you a little better now.
Can I call you O?
Sure.
Okay.
O dog. Okay. Let's see here. We have our first question for you. You got a book in the hopper?
Am I making a book?
Yes.
I am making a book. But
You are?
No, I am.
Okay.
I am. I'm taking all of these concepts that I teach and I'm putting them into a book. I've made ebooks, small books, but I'm actually, but I will tell you, I'm in a part of my life where I kind of want to write the book for my kids.
Yeah.
And just my kids. And if everybody else reads it, great. But I want to really write the book on how life changes, how your mind changes, what you focus on changes.
Yeah,
So,
I like that. What do you have a title that you're kicking around for it?
I don't yet. I'm still pretty early stages, and
love letters and life lessons for my children, or something like that. Yeah,
there you go.
It's really not bad.
But
that's cool.
I find that in my 50s, when I'm telling my kids something and they're listening to it with 20-year-old ears, they're not fully understanding what my 50-year-old mouth is saying. Mm-hmm. So I always want to write something that lasts longer than I do, that they can go back and maybe read and go, oh, I read that before, but okay, I get it.
Yeah, their perspective is going to change, and they'll appreciate what you're saying more. Yeah,
absolutely.
And doesn't your son work in your business?
He does.
Yeah. Which company?
AAA Landlord. He does some evictions.
Okay.
Eviction company. Yeah.
Following right in Dad's footsteps.
He kills it. He does a great job.
How is that? Is that to have your kid come up behind you and work in one of your companies?
So it doesn't work directly for me. I can't have that happen because I get the friends are going to the lake today. No, so he reports to my manager down the line, and he knows, and he's learned over time. Dad, can you tell him? No. Dad, he got mad at me. I don't. Then you probably deserved it. And I back up my manager over my kid, and it just teaches him, that respect authority. And now all of a sudden he's kind of like, oh, okay. It actually works for him. So he's growing up like we all are.
He'll respect you a lot more for that in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. He started at the very bottom, and if he wants to take over maybe the company one day, he's got to work all the way up to the top, just like I did. Or he's not going to appreciate it, right?
Yep.
Or understand all of it. But he's going to understand the business better than you at one point because he's worked in it like you've never worked.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I dream about that. I really want that for him. But you got to earn it in my family. You don't get it given to you. Because if I give it to you, you'll have it ruined and spent 30 years building something that you'll ruin in 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what about your daughter? Is she going to come work for the family business?
So I'm dual-brained, and my daughter is dual-brained. My daughter is fantastic. She can go both sides creative. She can go very logical. She's probably the most talented of my kids in certain aspects. I could see her taking over everything, but she doesn't want to. She wants to be a mom. She wants to raise her kids and kind of follow in her mom's footsteps. Super proud of her, but brilliant. Mm-hmm. Brilliant little girl.
And you're going to want grandkids someday.
Yeah. And my son's given me 5. So
shut the front door.
Made me happy. 28 with 3, 4, 5, and 6 twins. 5. So
5 kids at 28.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. When he has a bad day, I'm like, bro, I understand. Totally. Yeah. Totally. You are doing fantastic. I could not have survived at that point. So
I have a neighbor with 9 girls. We're the exact same age, and it just mind boggled on that. But hey, next,
let me not leave out my other son just in case they're listening. He's in law school in Idaho. He's killing it. He's going to go down the landlord eviction attorney, probably property route. So he's in his 3rd year. He's doing fantastic.
You're going to have in-house legal.
I hope so. I hope so.
I love this. It just gets better and better. Oh, here's the next question then. It's your podcast. Not necessarily Rent Perfect podcast. You can interview anyone in the world today. Doesn't need to be real estate related, preferably alive. Who is it? And you can get one question answered. They have to answer truthfully. What are you going to ask?
Okay, I don't want to get too political or make anybody mad here.
But you're good.
We've had all.
But I would love to sit down with Charlie Kirk at this point.
Yeah.
I know he's not alive today.
Yeah.
But he changed lives. Mm. And I can't tell you that I agreed with everything he said. I don't agree with everything about anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to be 100% in agreement on everything. There are some stances that he had that were a little harsh for me, but that's okay. But the overall thing is he brought people to God. He brought people to be American. He brought people to understand their freedom, to freely think. Like, how many colleges are teaching people just to think one way and that's the way we think? And he said, no. Let's freely think. And so I probably in the times a little bit, it's kind of emotional a little bit for me, but I don't care what side he was on politically. If you're having that kind of impact on people, I want to know at such a young age, how did you do it? Mm-hmm. Right? What makes you so special? So I'd probably take that opportunity to do that. There's a lot of people I'd love to interview, but right now, currently at this time, I thought we need more, no matter what side you're on, we need more people standing up for what they truly believe. And not just doing groupthink and
But also listening and having a conversation back and forth, which
and
he was
sitting
amazing
down.
at.
And he was good at, hey, let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about it, And
Even on Bill Maher, it was good. I don't know if you watched the podcast he did with Bill.
And he would sit down. He would sit down with everybody.
Yeah.
And then his wife comes out of his funeral and says, "I forgive." I don't know that I could quite get there that fast. Maybe I could get there one of these days, but within a week, that's on top of mind that I've got to forgive the person who killed. I mean, that is phenomenal. That's where this country needs to go. And so I hope the best for those guys. I really do.
I consumed a ton of his content, and I was consuming his content while he got assassinated.
And I wish I would have known a little bit more about him earlier in life, like my kids do, right? But that's probably why I want to go back now and say, hey, what did I miss here that I should have learned while you were here?
I mean, you imagine having him in the studio and just talking to him for a while. That'd been crazy. And that was a great one. Nobody's ever mentioned that.
Yeah, for real. Okay. So sad times. It's the end of the road for you, Dave. We're at your funeral, and we got somebody that's going to go up and talk about your legacy. Who do you think that's going to be, and what do you hope they're going to say?
My kids.
Mm-hmm. They're going to exclude the third one, like you did in the accolades you gave earlier.
No, I am early in my career. I worried about chasing money, and even when I was at my kids' games and when they progressed, I wasn't there in my mind. I was thinking about, got to get this done. And I was there. They saw me up in the stands. Yeah, Dad's here. That's great. But as I get older, I certainly realize that that's all we got.
It's true.
Yeah.
Is our family. So I would hope they would just say, I had a good dad.
Yeah.
And what song are they going to play?
They're mandated to play Running Down a Dream by Tom Petty.
Oh, right on. That's cool.
Okay, I'm running down a dream. I imagine while they're at the funeral, I'm working my way into my next journey, not knowing where I'm going, but I got the convertible down, wind running through my hair, and we're going to have a great time. So,
will you have a mullet in the afterlife, do you think?
I will. I will.
That was our conversation before we hit record.
And I might actually get a tattoo that I'm too afraid to get right now. So,
nice. Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, that's always a pretty powerful question.
Yeah.
And
no, it hits home, right? It hits to the heart of everything.
Yeah.
Why are we doing what we're doing? Why am I out on the road? Why am I out speaking? Why do I have rental properties? And it's really so I can take care of my family. Right.
Yeah.
It's really not any fame or fortune. I really don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to go back and be loved by those that I've been with my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great, man.
That should have been the last question. You guys have wiped me out.
It's our first episode, apparently. So we're still working out the format here.
You guys have wiped me out on that question.
Usually,
let me regroup here.
Well, we have one more deep one for you.
Okay.
Dead or alive.
Okay.
What mentors had the biggest impact on your life? And if you could say something to them right now, what would you say?
Wow. I have a lot of mentors, and I pick up a lot of information from a lot of people. I don't really have one specific person, but I think of my dad. I think of some of my uncles. I think of some of the early business partners that I worked with that gave me a lot of insight. I think we talked about, some of the books that have been written by some people and the way that it's got me to think. So I don't really have one particular one, to be honest with you. I have a lot, and I take a lot of information. And I've always been one that when I hear something from one person, I don't believe it. So I go research it, and it's kind of the investigator in me. And when I hear from 2 and 3 and 4 people, then it solidifies with me. So I don't really give any one person credit. I give a lot of people credit. But that Donald Miller we talked about, that story brand, not to go back to that, we've already hit that up, but he was a big impact in my life. There was a group called the Arbinger Group out there that did some, they did a book called The Peace Giver that helped you find peace in your life, to forgive people, that took away a lot of the hate that you get in your heart, or the jealousy or whatever. And so I like personal help books, personally myself, that helps me in my personal life, and then it helps me in my business life.
Yeah,
in
I love
addition
it too.
to that. So pretty spiritual guy, So love it.
That's great, man. Okay. Are you looking for anything in your business or life right now where somebody catching this episode might be able to hook you up? New hire, new vacation home?
Always looking for the right people in our organizations, which is not easy to find nowadays.
Do you guys have a brick and mortar location?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or more than one in Phoenix.
More than one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. And you're always looking for people to help with your various businesses that you have.
Have all kinds of different businesses,
Cool.
anywhere from management positions on down, and we're hiring researchers right now, turning them into private investigators, and so
that's
we have
cool.
about 40 private investigators right now. We probably need about 50.
Oh, okay.
And can that be remotely anywhere, or does it have to be in Phoenix?
That one has to be in Phoenix. We have customer service in 4 different states, and customer service can be at home, at a distance. But when you're a researcher and you have these files, it's hard to do.
All right, I'm going to give my tenants your number then, when they can get a side hustle going to pay me rent.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. Hopefully, if you use Rent Perfect, we'll already have the background check done on them. So when they come into work for me,
yes, I like all of this. Now, we mentioned earlier that you have a podcast. What is your podcast called?
It's a Rent Perfect podcast.
Rent Perfect podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the best, way for people to, maybe reach out to you or follow you? They like what they heard today.
Yeah,
and use Rent Perfect.
Yeah. So we post on YouTube if you want to watch it.
Okay.
There, but we're on all the other podcast streams, and so if you like to listen to it on the radio, just go to your Apple or iTunes or all the other places that you can get
stuff,
those
everywhere.
all the good ones. There's a million of them now, right?
Yeah. Do you have are you pretty active on social, or you kind of just do it as needed?
What? That's probably where I need to improve. I think that my generation, we didn't kind of grow up with let everybody know what you're doing every second of the day. And as I sit down with my team, and even I got back from National RIA on, what day is it today? Jeez, I don't even know.
It's Friday.
On Wednesday, I had a meeting with them. They're like, Dave, when you go to Omaha, before you start, you got to take a picture of the audience. They're trying to.
I sent you pictures.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I sent them. I got this young crowd, right? Dave, you got to get more involved in social media. People want to follow people. That just doesn't come natural to me.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And I probably could do it for a couple of weeks and just have it top of mind, but I don't know if it's ever going to become who I am.
Yeah.
That everywhere I go, I got a phone out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I certainly want to help people and I want to educate people, but I'm not sure you need to know everything about me.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just not sure that's it.
Especially if you put yourself on a podcast, you're already putting so much of yourself out there on the microphone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that know your whole life, and you'll meet them and they know everything about you and will tell you something about you that you're like, oh yeah. Right. Weird, but we get it, because we follow people.
Yeah. And we did a good little promo video that I was coming here for your team. And I don't mind that stuff, right? But my team wants me to take a picture when we get on the airplane, take a picture of Omaha, take a picture where you had dinner. I just am having a hard time with that. Yeah. So do you guys have a hard time with that? Or is it easy for you to do?
We got breakfast burritos this morning.
Yeah. Do you ever see me pull out my phone? Like when we're talking, I'm engaged. I'm not worried about, hey, I want everybody else to see that Ted and I are friends. It's not what comes across my brain. And I go back and I get chewed out for all the footage I didn't get. And the reality is I probably should have some kid following me everywhere I go and just have him do it. But then do I want to deal with that either?
Right. Then you're responsible for that person
so guys,
on a trip.
Forgive me. I'm trying to be better at Instagram and in our feeds, but I got to know what I'm good at, and I got to know what
on our RIA Radio Instagram, we reposted some of your stuff. So.
I appreciate it.
Hey, Gen Xers going to Gen X.
Exactly.
Right? Boom.
As you get older, you think everybody wants to hear you when you're younger. When you get older, you realize that not everybody wants to hear you on every single topic, maybe just the topics you're good at.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't want my input on decorating the home. She's like, yeah, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
I don't want to put my politics out there.
Yeah. And
go back to real estate and leave me alone. So I just try to stay in my lane.
What's the saying? It's like everybody thinks they're the main character in everyone's life, but you're really just an NPC, like non-player character.
Hey, I look back at the younger David Pickron. I'm like, it's embarrassing. Like, everybody wants to hear my opinion about everything. And like I said, as I've gotten older, I realize, man, there are some things you should shut your mouth on.
Yeah.
Right?
Stay in your lane.
Just stay in your lane. Yeah. So instead of getting to know me better, I'm getting to know what I'm not good at. Right. So
yeah,
it's fun. And it's actually a lot easier in life if you can just, pick your moments and sit back in the background on all the other moments.
Amen, man.
I hear you though. I go through these waves. But with that, Dave, it's been great to get to know you over the last couple months, but especially this last week. I mean, we've traveled 2 states together and gotten a couple meals. Seen you speak twice, so it's been a real injection of Dave Pickron in my life.
Well,
lately.
I need to come back and go to the zoo. So maybe when I come back and go to the zoo, we'll do a part 2 if there's
I love it. That's
perfect.
You just let me know when you want to make that happen.
Because in person, it's just so much better than a Zoom.
Then on that big screen right there.
Yeah, it's great, guys. I appreciate it. Just 2 good guys right here. I love being behind the microphone with other great investors that are just blabbing away and talking about
That's one thing we do well, is blab away.
Well, Dave, thanks to you again. And with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Ria Radio, Aiden Bear, and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to David, the Parables of a PI Landlord, Pickron.
Sign off. How old do you think Aiden is there, by the way? You had to get.
Aiden, look at me. Aiden is 26 years old.
Close. I'm 24.
24, okay.
He had a big beard for a while and long
Okay.
hair, and people were guessing like 40 there for a while.
Oh, shoot.
That was a different time.
We all have those times, Aiden. Hey, we all have those times, brother. Trust me.
He was like, those guys are not going to give me shit anymore. I'm going to take care of this
I
right
had
now.
the best mullet ever when I was your age. It was freaking awesome. I'm telling you, I wish I could do it again.
Dude, I had so I played I was super into baseball when I was a kid. I was a pitcher, and I loved the movie Major League. You ever
Right.
see
Oh
that?
yeah.
Remember
Wild Thing.
Charlie
Yeah.
Sheen,
Uh-huh,
Wild Thing? Do you remember he had his haircut?
Mhm.
I had that haircut. So I had the zigzags in the back.
Oh, you didn't.
Total
Yeah.
douchebag.
Yeah.
No, I was number 99, just like him. Yeah,
I
total douchebag.
really hope Joey puts that in the cutouts.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that was my sophomore year in high school. I cannot believe. Oh, man, it's so
those are
so
great
cringy.
years, though. Are those not great years?
Oh yeah, they're the best, man.
Yeah.